poor Smudgy, no one will play with you ever, will they, darling? Welcome to episode 85 of the YarnderWoman Podcast. My name is Melinda, hello, and this is Smudge, the Yarnder dog. I couldn't have an episode without any Smudge in it, so what better way than to start off with his gorgeous face. Ah, so beautiful, aren't you, darling? You're a beautiful boy. This episode is going to show you some of my trip to Brisbane. So you'll see a little bit of me at the Brisbane hotel and some of the knitting I did while I was away. But the bulk of the episode will be my works in progress, and I'll talk about, I'll talk about those as we get to them. So we'll have a little bit, because I pulled them all out, or 20 of them, before I went to Brisbane. So I have some timestamps if you're only interested in seeing the WIPs as they go, as opposed to when I'm in Brisbane. But yes, enjoy. What do you reckon, Smudgy? Should we send them into the episode now? I think we should. All right. Enjoy looking at all my WIPs, my travels, and thank you so much for spending some time with me. Oh, very quickly, come and join us in the Ravelry group. Search for the YarnderWoman Podcast on the groups tab on Ravelry. You can find me as YarnderWoman on Ravelry and Instagram. And I do have a blog where I usually have show notes, but I won't have anything specific for this episode, other than some links to the whip along that I mentioned. But that all can be found at www.yarnderwoman.blogspot.com.au. So with that, sit back, relax, enjoy the show. And Smudgy and I hope you enjoy it. Whew, okay, I have signed up for the Crimson Stitchery Whip Along, which I briefly mentioned in the previous episode, and I think it's episode 15 of the Crimson Stitchery that Anushka talks about it or announces it. So the idea is you list all your works in progress, which can include mending and any kind of craft, and then you commit to finishing 50% of your list by, I think it's the 2nd of January 2020. I think some of these bags, because these 2 bags here are actually full of project bags. Yeah, I think some of these might just have, the ends. Oh, here comes Smudge. No, he's not. Never mind. Sorry. Oh, the disappointment. I think some of the bags may just have yarn. There he is. Like the end of a project, where, well, I shouldn't speak for anyone else, but I'm sure I'm not the only one, finish a project and just leave the leftover yarn and the needles in there and then move on with my life. So I don't think this is all active, or not even active, but just works in progress, because I made a list and I had 20 based on Ravelry projects, and I generally always have a Ravelry project for my WIPs, so I don't think I'm going to have any surprise WIPs. Therefore, there's definitely more than 20 bags here, so some must not have WIPs and just be yarn. And I know, for example, this one, this gorgeous sort of, I guess, bucket bag that Julia made me, 9Crafty11. This is holding yarn for a project that's in this one, so that I don't have to carry the multiple colours with me. So some of that may be the case for other things as well. But I'm going to go through now so that I can make sure they're all there, then I can decide which ones I want to finish. I might be frogging some of them, which is also acceptable part of the knit along or whip along. And we'll see how we go, because I know we did the finish along in June on this podcast, and that was great, and I got a few things done. But the fact, this is longer, so there's more time, but I really like the idea of having a list and marking things off. I don't know why I didn't think of this before, because some of these works in progress are newer, but some are old, and it's at the point now where I should decide, am I ever going to finish them, or should I just pull them out and move on? So I've got a nice cup of green tea here to sustain me, and this, I'm still deciding on his or her name. This is a toy gorilla I got last night at, if you're in Perth, it's a Diabolic book and record store, and they have plush as well. Gorillas are my favourite animal ever, mountain gorillas specifically, after having loved the movie Gorillas in the Mist. The story of Dian Fossey with Sigourney Weaver. So yeah, when I saw this toy gorilla, I was like, oh, I must have him. Maybe I've decided it's a him. We'll see. I do have a bigger sized gorilla that I got when I was 13. This is a tangent, isn't it? But never mind. We went to Melbourne and were staying with my auntie and her family. And at the Melbourne Zoo, which is a conservation zoo, as most of the zoos in Australia are, they had lowland gorillas, not the highland ones that I especially love. But so my dream was to get a toy gorilla, which I did. So I do have that gorilla, which I think is in storage because it was part of the toys I used to get the Yarnder nibblings to play with. But now I've got this little itty bitty gorilla. Maybe gorilla, GGG something. I don't know, that's a bit hard to say. Because that's a scientific name for that type of gorilla. You know, genus, species, and a third one because there's 3 words. But it's gorilla, which I think is awesome. Anywho, maybe this can be my travel gorilla when I go to Brisbane next week for work. Ooh, maybe the gorilla can, be seen in various locations. Yes, I think so. Oh, they agree. Fabulous. Moving on now. Okay, I'm going to look at some of these whips and I will definitely take you along on the ride as I decide on the order of finishing. Okay, after looking at that giant pile, there were a few that weren't whips, so I've put them aside and I'll definitely show you all the pieces I'm going to be working on. But I found this one that's not a whip, it's bound off, I've just got to weave in the ends, but that doesn't count for the whip along, which is definitely fair enough. This is the Arbutus, Arbuts, and it's a cowl by Jane Richmond. I think it goes that way. And when you put it on, it looks like you're wearing a looped over cowl, but it's actually one piece with these 3 sections. This is part of the red along that we're running, because it's beautiful red, and it was also part of my Make 9 list. If you watched an earlier episode at the beginning of the year, I was participating, or I made a list as part of the hashtag Make 9 2019, where I chose 9 patterns that I wanted to work on. I can't even remember how many I've done, maybe only 3 or 4. It's definitely not been a big focus and I want to get back to it. Of course, I'm working on whips now, but some of them might be included. I can't remember. Who knows? Anyway, this is the Arbutus and it was a lovely knit. You use short rows as part of the workings, and then you're just going round and round doing stockinette and purl. Now you can see along here, that's where some of the short rows happened, and I think here as well. And I had something went weird here. I don't know what or where. Some of my short rows, there are holes. Ooh, focus. So you can see along here there's some holes, but they're bigger holes, so I'll just weave those in. I don't know what happened. It doesn't matter, it's not going to impact the wearing. I'll just weave them at the back, sort of cinch them together. I've got this much yarn left over. This gorgeous yarn, it's looking a little bit orangey on the screen as I'm looking at it, but it's definitely a deep red, and it's sort of deep red with darker red blacky bits. This is by Miss Click Clack, which is an Australian yarn dyer, and it was sent to me by the lovely Julia, who I mentioned earlier with the bags. Speaking of, this is the bag she gave me recently when I met up with her for the first time ever in Brisbane, and it was an early birthday present for me. Thank you, Julia. And I think this might have been a present from a previous birthday, so it was a very nice pairing and very good for the read along. Plus, there's my girl, Wonder Woman, plus Supergirl and Batgirl. Batgirl's my second girl. So what I'm going to do now is, weave in this end here, weave in the ends, and then it'll be ready for blocking. So that'll be good to have. I'm about to wear it. And I've brought a few other project bags in with me of things that I might work on this afternoon. I've decided to make a little nest in the bedroom here because the Yarnder teen, my stepdaughter, was sick this week and I woke up definitely not with a sore throat, definitely not needing a nap. I'm definitely fine. And so I'm definitely going to just have a rest and make my little nest. I've got some Earl Grey and I'll watch some podcasts or listen to an audiobook with my projects. Nice hotel apartment. Very similar to my last one, but a different layout, so it's exciting. Not a view of the river this time as such, though there's part of it. Look at the lovely red, very happy. But here's my view down over part of the city, which is pretty cool. So I'm here with some colleagues, so we're just going to take some time to freshen up and settle into our rooms, and then we're going to go out to get something to eat. But first I'll show you my knitting. Partying hard in my Brisbane hotel room, having some lemon sip. Yep, I know how to celebrate. I got a bit of a cold, luckily nothing worse though. Oh my goodness, I clearly have a sinus blockage because when we started descending I was in agony. Thankfully it didn't last too long, but yes, lemon sip time before dinner. However, I did promise you knitting, so I'll show you what I was working on the plane. I was about to say quick tip, lemon sip's disgusting, but I couldn't taste a lot of that. I am beginning to think, because I had a coffee earlier and I didn't taste that very much either, and I thought maybe it's just weak. I am a bit worried my taste has gone if my sinuses are blocked. Well, that's very annoying. I guess I could just go and eat raw kale and not have to worry about it. That's not me slagging kale in general, I just don't like raw kale. But yeah, anyway, I'm sure that's not that interesting for you, so let's move on to the knitting. This got the most work. This is some kind of cotton, can't remember what it is, but it's yellow and it's made of cotton, so yeah. Anyway, it's in a homespun house bag. I've always loved this one. Let me turn it around properly for you. Sorry for that clanking of the stitch marker. I don't know if this is worse. So it's got these gorgeous old-fashioned teacups, and then this gingham, it always reminds me of like a tablecloth. And it's got this beautiful red trim, and it's got the yarn tag. So yes, love that one. So this is a face washer. It's for, I'm not sure if the person watches the podcast actually, someone's birthday. And I think I started the decreases in the taxi. Which, by the way, as you'll have seen from the footage earlier, I got a maxi taxi all to myself, just because obviously that was the only one that was free to pick me up, so that was fun. But yes, so I finished that on the plane, and then I forgot to pack my dental floss in my carry-on, and I usually do that because you can use the little metal bit as scissors on the plane when you can't obviously take scissors. Forgot, I had my plastic knife, I don't know if I kept it. Oh, I did, here we go. The plastic knife from my food service, and I'm sitting there like hacking away. There was a young boy travelling on his own, I think he's about 12, and he's just kind of looking at me, and I'm just sort of like, I haven't got any scissors, and he's like, okay. In the end, I couldn't get it to cut, you know, that's really got no give on it whatsoever. Fortunately, I found the other end of the ball, which meant I could cast on a second one. This here, which there's scissors in the apartment, so I'll be able to cut it off. This is the other needle to this, which is a Bunny Buddy. It's a pattern I've made before. It's a free one. So it's like a little triangle at the bottom and then a little bunny head and ears. I'm using Knit Picks Felici in the Hawaiian shirt colorway. That's the next size down needles. When you do the bunny's head, you do a different size. So I finished that, and then I was going on with this. I think I was up to about here. But I thought I had the pattern as a photograph on my phone, but then I realised I had cleared my phone before I travelled. And I was like, oh, I've made them a few times, maybe I can work it out. But then I decided I couldn't be bothered, and didn't want to do something wrong and have to change it. So, as I said, I found the other end of that one and cast on another face washer. So I think maybe I'll do 3 of these to go with the present for the person. I think that'll be really, really nice. Yellow is their favourite colour, so it should work. The other project I brought, you've seen on the podcast before. Oh, goodness me. Yeah, there it is. I am a bit tired and coldy, fluey, and need more coffee. And anyway, here it is. This is the hat I'm making, just with a rolled brim. Those beautiful colours. This is a sunset colourway of Felice yarn that my lovely friend Jana, and friend of the podcast, donated a whole lot of yarn for podcast prizes and, in this case, for charity items. So I've got a spare ball in there just in case I run out. Oh dear, I'm going to have to tidy that up. Because this project, it's on the smaller needles, so it's easy to go round and round and round. I think this is the one I'll be taking for the conference that I'm in Brisbane for, because it's, you can just keep going. You don't have to change rows and make clicking noises and worry about anything. You just keep going round and round and round. So it's much less obtrusive, which is good. And yes, I will look up the rest of the pattern for that and take a different photo of it, because there is Wi-Fi on the plane, but it wasn't letting me load Ravelry to check the pattern again, so who knows why. It doesn't matter. I got a lot more done on this one, which is good. So I've already started the decreases. This is the Nana's Favourite Complexion Washcloth, which is another free pattern on Ravelry. So you essentially just decrease out, decrease in, make a diamond. So yes, I'll drink my tasteless lem zip and I'll take you out to Brisbane. Nori seaweed chips. Vegetable tempura burger. Alright, jammies and knitting time. Oh, my nose seems to be even more blocked, so that's exciting, isn't it? Aren't you glad I'm giving you an update on my sinus situation? Oh, I know that's what you come here for, so I like to deliver. Anyway, knitting wise, I've got my pattern now for the Bunny Buddy. This is free. It's off, I think it's the Lion Brand website. And it's the little face. I tend to not put the face on, because, I think maybe I've done a couple with it, because I have made this pattern quite a few times. I was going to say, it's a bit fiddly. I like to just be done with it, but also I really like the concept of, I believe it's a Montessori theory, is that, not putting faces on toys or dolls, because that way the child can put their own emotions onto it, and it's sort of, more, can use more of the imagination. So it goes well with my slightly lazy or not botherediness, but in all seriousness, I really do like that concept. That fits a lot with my sort of philosophy on play and that sort of thing. So that's why there's a little face there, though, because that's to do with the finishing. But here we go. I didn't show you properly the bag before. Sorry, it's my hanky there. Fascinating. And here we are. This is by Little Skein in the Big Wool. And it's the cutest little things. I think this might have been when she did a Velveteen Rabbit collection, but I don't think this was the Velveteen Rabbit one, but perhaps that's where that echoes from. But oh, the lambs. Yeah, the bunnies are gorgeous too, but oh, the lambs. So cute. But yes, it turns out I am up to the stage where I need to put the arms on, so it's good I kind of remembered that it was a good place to stop when I was on the plane. So now it's time for arms. I have some Wi-Fi in the room, I think, so I might try and watch some podcasts, but otherwise I downloaded a whole lot of audio podcasts before I left. I've got some audio books. Ah, it's lovely. So it's 8 o'clock now, which is 6 o'clock for my body clock. Because I'm only here for a couple of days, I'm going to try and stick to Perth time so that my body clock doesn't get out of whack too much. Hopefully I'll be able to sleep tonight. You know, it's always a bit tricky in hotels sometimes, or when you're away from your own bed, regardless of whether it's a hotel or somewhere else. But yeah, it's quite good because I've been travelling, because I've travelled east. It means the time is ahead, so usually I get up at 5 or 5:30, so that means I'm in bed 8:30 or so. So if I go to bed 10:30, so it's quite good, you see, I get to stay up later and sleep in inverted commas, but keep to my normal body clock. So we'll see how we go. Alright, back in Perth. Very tired. Went to work yesterday. Wishing I'd taken the day off. That's okay. Now I can go through all my works in progress and maybe make a sort of a plan around them, but I'm going to show you them all, beginning with ones I've been working on the last few days. I've got my printed list, my Earl Grey tea on top of it. This is just the text that I put in the thread for the Crimson Stitchery whip along, that this make along that inspired all of this, and I'll go through them all with you. These are the ones I took with me. Mary Higg knows the bags. And this project I was working on last night, and I found some slip stitches in the lace, so I'll show you those in a minute. But I did some finishing, so let's begin project number 1. Okay, we've got the Bunny Buddy. I finished this on the plane coming back, and I'm very happy that it got done. I've got the needle still there because the pattern, which is a free one, you make like a little pocket. I'm trying to lift it up, using pearl stitches and slip stitches so that you can stuff the head. So this, when it's off a needle, you just wind the yarn through round a circle. So there's some stitches on one side and some on the other. If you can see there, see there's some pearls and some slipped stitches, and so you just thread the yarn through, put some stuffing in the head, and then cinch it up, and then you just have to wind in your ends. I'll block it before I stuff it though, so that I don't have to worry about the stuffing drying out. And then you can do a little knot on the end of each hand. Sometimes I forget to do that, but you know, it doesn't matter either way. And then it's ready to be given. So I'm very happy with how that turned out. I'll show you both sides because obviously it's reversible, as I mentioned. I won't be doing a face. Yeah, very cool. The colour changed on the ear, but it's very subtle there, but I quite like that. Just a bit of a stripe of a different coloured blue. You can see that's the transition there between those blues. They're very subtle. Yes, I'm very happy with that one. So I can, not quite yet because it's not exactly finished, but nearly tick this off as the first finished object. Actually, it's not. I've got a different one to show you. Very close to the top on the list of finished objects that are finished as part of the whip along. So that was the Bunny Buddy project. I can't remember off the top of my head who the pattern is by, but I will have a link to my Ravelry page in both the show notes and down below in YouTube. So I mentioned just now I had a different finished object. This is it, and actually there are two. So this is the Nana's Favourite Complexion washcloth. Again, can't remember the designer, but that's the definite title, whereas the Bunny Buddy, I'm not sure if that's exactly right. I think there's some numbers after it. But again, that will all be in the show notes. The sun is sort of coming in and out, so that's washed the colour out a bit. This is a colour called Creme Brulee, and it's a bit more yellowy. I finished this one and this one, which is still attached to the ball. So what I did, there was, you know, the remaining one stitch left when you cast off. So I just made that loop quite big and fed the whole ball through to then just be able to make a knot, because that was on the plane when I did that. So a lot of these were knit on the plane, a little bit in the hotel room, but I'm very pleased with how they turned out. So when I've woven in the ends, obviously snipped the end on this one, I may block them, I may not, because you may be familiar with 100% cotton, and especially this kind of more, it's not rough, but you know, not mercerized cotton. It can, you know, dry in funny shapes and whatnot, so I might leave it as it is. just so it stays a little bit more of a square. I could pin and block it, I suppose, but anyway, I will see. Very happy with those. So yes, these are definitely finished. I suppose technically not, I haven't woven in my ends, but yeah, those are sort of 2 quick projects. I was really happy to have those to do during travel because it's just quite easy, repetitive, and little projects that are nice to be done and ticked off the list. Another almost finished project is the hat I was working on during the conference I was at. So I've got these markers here. That one, first one, is the knitting I got done at the Orchestra Joy Division show. Between the purple and that green, that was just a roundabout, you know, commute knitting, maybe during movies or something the week before. And then here, got quite a bit done there on the first day of the conference because that was a full day. The second day we wrapped up about 3 p.m. So that was 9 till 3 there. And then after that, that was sort of at the airport and on the plane. As I said, I did a lot of knitting on those other 2 projects, the face washes and the bunny buddy on the plane. But I did do a little bit towards the end of the flight, which was good. And that's all I've got left. I'm quite sure when I wound up the end of the ball that it's perhaps that orange and yellow inside. So essentially I've only got 3 more colour repeats, which is, I think there's about 3 or 4 per row. So I'm nearly done. I think I will do a 3 needle bind off on this one, so it will make it square across, so it sort of gives like ears, like a cat or something. I was actually thinking I might do a cross, but I could do a Kitchener stitch instead so that it didn't have that seam. I do like the seam as a feature, but I wonder I might do a Kitchener just for something different. I suppose I'll see how I go when I get there. Because I have another ball, I might just knit as much as I can with this, and then I can Kitchener or 3 needle bind off with the beginning of that. Or really, if I do the 3 needle bind off, I can use any kind of yarn. It shouldn't really be too visible. So I will see, but yes, I'll go as much as I can. I love this sunset colourway, it's very pretty. And yes, then that will go in the charity pile. This pretty is my Te Mana Wakura shawl, designed by Françoise Denot, also known as Araha Knits. And it's a beautiful project. I started this last year and it's one of those ones that was on hold for quite a while. I think I mentioned it in a previous episode. I thought I'd gone too far in the stockinette, so I put it down and then never got back to it. Then it turned out I hadn't gone too far. Then, you know, it got to the lace and it wasn't something I could do easily, like, you know, take a roundabout. But I've been working on it quite steadily for the last couple of weeks at home. There's lots of ends you can see here because this yarn, which is Madeleine Tosh in the Victorian Gothic colourway, which I've had in stash for probably 7 years or so. I don't even think this colourway is made anymore, and I'm very glad I was able to get a lot of it back then. I think that's when the Australian dollar was pretty equal with the American, and I got a lot of stash at that time, I think through Jimmy Bean's Wool, the online shop. But yes, Victorian Gothic is just a style and a theme very close to my heart. So the fact there's a yarn of it and it's that beautiful tonal black and grey and beautifulness, I'm very happy to have it, and I think it knits up so beautifully, all the tonality here. Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. These are the bubbles I have shown you before. And I'm up to the second lace section, and this is what I was mentioning. Last night I was knitting on it. I'd done a few rows, and then I was watching the This Old Knit podcast with lovely Nina, or is Ine on Ravelry and Instagram, and she was showing, I think it was a blanket project, and she said something like, sometimes I just like to look at it. And that was obviously the universe telling me something, because I said, oh yes, I think I'll just look at my project, and that's when I noticed I had 2 dropped stitches. I think it's going to be okay in terms of picking it up, and the row, I must have only just dropped them that row because I had the correct number of stitches at the end of that pattern row, because it's a lace pattern with, you know, patterning on both sides. There's no rest row. I get the biggest thrill when I get to the end of the row and it says, you know, work repeat until final 8 stitches, then do X, Y, Z. And I get to the end and I'm like, I've got 8 stitches, yes! It's the biggest thrill. So my number of stitches were correct, therefore I think I must have only dropped those 2 stitches on that row, otherwise it would have thrown out my numbers. And if I look, you know, that it's kind of near that bobble and a decrease here, sort of a decrease row, and there's another bubble, and there's the decrease in the bubble there. I think it's just in a sort of a garter section-ish, if you see here. So I think I should be able to work out how to pick it up without it interfering with the pattern too much. Like I think I'm somewhere here where it's just, you know, there's some yarn overs, as you can see here. That's not one yarn over. There's some yarn overs and something else happening there. So I think I'm going to be okay. But I'm, you know, I wasn't raring to do it when it happened just before bed last night. So hence I just grabbed some stitch markers and have popped it there. So I definitely will aim to do that sooner rather than later so that it doesn't, you know, go to the back of the pile, because I am really enjoying this and I would like to have this scarf or shawl. You can see it's asymmetrical, so it's sort of, you know, knits up in that kind of a direction. You're doing increases and decreases at various points. It is getting wider though as it goes, so it will be wider than it is at the beginning. But yeah, I'd really like to wear this while it's still winter. So yes, I want to do this sooner rather than later. Therefore, need to do that sooner rather than later. Okay, this one's a bit shameful that it's still a whip and not finished. Oh dear, sorry for all the banging. This, who remembers this? It's the Taylor's Oldest Time cowl that I was knitting earlier in the winter. Sorry, all the clanging and banging. It's the bag, it's the stitch markers. Is that a drop stitch or is that just a marker for something? Oh, that might have been when I changed needles, stitch counts, or... That's right, I was doing 2 at a time circulars and then I swapped to just 1 circular, I think. So this is the Taylor's Oldest Time, which is designed by Annie of Little Skein Anne. Sorry, Little Skein in the Big Wool, who is Little Skein Anne, Anne Little. Goodness me. This is Knit Picks Felici in the Firefighter colourway. And this was Knit Picks Hawthorn, I think. Do I have the tag? My cute little bag. Look at the cute little creatures. I do have a bit of a cold, so if my voice sounds weird, other than when I did that funny voice, that was all me. Yeah. Anyway, Hawthorn Fingering, Picnic Kettle Dye, and Felici Firefighter. Now, the reason I say it's shameful that it's still on the needles is because I've actually finished all the knitting, and all that's left now is to do is it a 3 needle bind off at this point? Yes. So you're knitting in a tube, but you start with provisional cast on, 3 needle bind off to join your stitches at this point, and then at this end join them, so that way you're only having to Kitchener half the number of stitches rather than having to Kitchener all around the whole thing. So it gives a nice little flat edge, because I have knit this pattern once before, which was for a gift. And yeah, it's terrible that I didn't finish it, as I said. I think I was supposed to leave myself more yarn because I just kept knitting till I'd used up nearly all the red. And I think I was supposed to, after I do a 3 needle bind off and make it flat, knit some garter rows so to line up, but I think I can just use a different yarn or more. I have some more of this one, so I could just do some more in the grey and match them up that way. But that's why it was on hold, because I was like, oh, I've done the wrong thing. I'll sort it out later. And it's been too long now in the later. It was very cold on Friday. For no other reason than it was very cold in comparison to Brisbane weather, which was lovely and warm, as I mentioned earlier, but it was actually cold. So I have a slight hope that there's still a little bit of cold weather left for me to enjoy this. Obviously, I don't want other people to be cold if they don't have such nice, lovely knitwear or warm things. But from a knitwear perspective, I think I'll have a little bit more time. So I really should put this higher up the list of things to get finished, shouldn't I? Terrible. There's my spoon. So I'm spoony. Lovely gift. Yes, so I should put this. Everything's coming up as sort of should be high on the list, but that's kind of, yeah, is indicative of most of these projects, which shouldn't still be on the needles. But anyway, there we go. That's one. This bag is from Vilaine on Etsy. She also sells yarn. It's just so cute. She's using a knitting needle to pole vault over the sheep. Now, this one, I was actually pleased, is not one of my WIPs. This is a couple of projects that yarn niece Emma is working on, just going round and round. So she does have a knitting project at home that I gave her. So I'll see if she still wants to continue with this. She might. If she does, that's fine. Unless I end up desperately needing to use the yarn, it's no bother. I'm pretty sure those are both knit picks. I think that's a worsted weight and that's a fingering with sparkles. So yes, I was pleased that at least one of these mini project bags is not mine. Or, as in, the project is not one I'm working on. Here's WyarnderWoman Knit So Pop. She very kindly gave me this bag and had one for a giveaway. So pretty. WyarnderWoman is awesome. Inside is projects that's technically finished, bar the needles. Oh, goodness. Bar weaving in the ends. These are yoga socks that I made last year. You can see there's where the heel would go, and that's for the foot. As I said, they are finished. I should try them on because the problem I had with them, because for this version it was a free pattern on Ravelry, I can't remember who it was by. You cast off, then recast on, and I do a knitted cast on, and it's not loose. So I'm not sure. It's not loose, therefore it's tight. So I'm not sure if it's going to be comfortable. I think I put them on and found them a bit too tight. And same with my bind off on the foot, even though I did Jenny's surprisingly stretchy bind off. I think I still found it too tight. I really should just try them on again, and because it might also be that. Do you see a face there, like it's a teacup? There's the handle, eyes, nose, mouth. Is it just me? Anyway, me and my teacup, possible yoga socks. It might be, because yarn wool stretches when you wear it. So perhaps I'll give them a go. Perhaps I don't need to rip them out after all, because that's what I was thinking I was going to have to do, was rip them out, or at least rip out back to the opening. The yoga socks pattern that Sarah Bauer has just released, who is Sarah Pomegranate from the Yarns at Yinhu podcast, for her heel hole, she actually has you do a planned afterthought heel, which I'd like to try as well. And then I think hers are toe up, so that way you wouldn't have as tight a cast off. But then my cast on isn't very loose either, though she suggests a tubular cast on. Anyway, I will try these on. These might be not necessarily something that counts for the whip along because they are not actually a whip, but we'll see. These were knit with a sock blank that I dyed with food colouring, and it's one I did with some blues and reds, and it was inspired by the Harley Quinn costume from the New 52, and more specifically the Suicide Squad movie. You can see I've written Quinn there. It did say Harley in another part. So that's good fun. And I really like how it knitted up. There's sections with lots of blue and then somewhere it's mixed. So yes, very happy with that. So it'd be good if I don't have to rip them out, and then I can make something else with the rest of this. More on this to come. So inside this beautiful bag is a big and beautiful shawl. This is my ritual shawl, designed by my friend Mars, who's Hey Brownberry, and it's big. It's very big, and that's wonderful, but that means it's hard for me to now pull it all around and show you. So I am currently on the knitted border section, so part of this shawl has already been cast off. It's fascinating watching me untangle. There we go. I think we're okay now. And again, sorry for the clanking. If it bothers you, you might like it. So this shawl starts with this gorgeous grey. I've got the camera set up in front of me, so I'm sitting behind you here. So hence it's a little bit of a smaller space to be able to show you. So please bear with me. I thank you for your patience. Two of the yarns are from Bendigo Woolen Mills. Bendigo being where the Australian Sheep and Wool Show is held every year, and so it's a very old, if not the oldest, working wool mill in Australia. This is the Stella range, not range, well it is a range, but base, and it's 50% wool, 50% merino. So this is the black pearl colourway, and this colourway I believe is coral. Let me see. Oh, how funny is that? It looks like a big tam berry hat or something. Red coral, yes. Oh, it's got bits of fluff. I really liked working with this yarn. I bought quite a few of these in 2016 when I was there being Bendigo. So I'm glad, because I think I'd really like to make some garments out of these, which was my initial plan with the yarn. But yeah, I loved the way it was in the hand. I like how it's knitted up. So I used a bigger needle than was called for in the pattern. So I've got quite a loose gauge because of that bamboo. I think it's really, really lovely. So it's probably a bit bigger than the pattern, but I never really go by the exact dimensions of the pattern anyway for shawls. So I've got the black pearl, then the red coral, and then this is the beautiful knitted on border, which is in a separate red yarn, which is also Bendigo Woolen Mills, but it's a 100% bamboo. So the drape on that is even more floppy, as you can see. If I'd thought about it, I might have gone down a needle size for this border just because of the extreme drape, but it's not going to make any difference. It's not going to look bad when it's blocked or anything. It just might have been something to do, but doesn't matter. I just love the colours, the grey and the two reds, so pretty. And doing a knitted on border used to really, intimidate me. But I have done one before. It was on a pattern by Marsha, who is Very Little and has a Very Little podcast. What was that? The Narita Express shawl. Narita Express being the train to the airport in Tokyo, and she designed it while she was on it. That's why it's easy for me to remember, because it's in Japan and I used to live in Japan. Anyway, my point being, when I did that knitted on border, I was like, oh, this is actually not difficult at all. It's fine. So that was good. It has liberated me. And that was a few years ago. Therefore, this knitted on border was not scary at all. If you are not familiar with the knitted on border, let me see, I'll get to where I'm up to. And this is not giving away the pattern. This is just how a knitted on border is done in any context. So you can see, oh my goodness, we can't see anything because we're all tangled. There's needles going everywhere. Here we go. Again, thank you for your patience. This is the edge of the shawl that's still on the needles. There. And then you can either use the other end of your needle, or as Mars suggested in the pattern, you just use a DPN, and it's much easier in this case because you just knit now along one or two at a time of the stitches of the shawl, but then you're adding stitches on, which gives you the border out here. So at various points here, I picked up, you can see the different colours in there. There we go. You can see the different colour red in there. That's at various points along the way. We picked up a stitch along the body of the shawl and then cast on more stitches and gone outwards. So instead of going all the way along as you do when you're knitting your shawl and you go down, for this knitted on border, or for all knitted on borders, you're just picking up 1 or 2 stitches at a time and knitting back and forth along the edge. So you only get a little bit more in length, but you're getting many more stitches going along. And it's got a really pretty effect. So it's just a different way. Obviously you can do lace borders where you just go down and then you knit all the way along and all the way back. But doing it this way, you can just get different effects. So it's a lovely feature, and I really like the pattern and how it's turning out. Now, Mars is doing a knit along for this shawl, has been doing one for several months since she released the pattern, and I believe it wraps up on the 1st of September, and today is the 23rd of August, I think, or 24th of August, Saturday, so I think that's the 24th. So I've only got a week. I'm over halfway. This is the halfway point of the shawl. It's got the double eyelets going down the middle of the shawl. So I'm over halfway. Still got quite a bit to go because, as I said, it's quite a big shawl. Like my gauge aside, it's a big shawl. So again, this is another one I should focus on. But perhaps this should take precedence over even like the Tailor's Out of Time cowl, even though that's only got a little bit left. This is sort of more of a time crunch. Not that it matters if I'm not doing it to try and, win a prize. If I win a prize, that's always lovely. But it's more the participation. But given I'm trying to work on at least 50% of my whips, which is the idea of the Crimson Stitchery whip along, perhaps the way I should decide priority is if there are other knit alongs I can enter as well. Just to, have some more fun and have that as a way of determining the order. I think that's what we'll do. Now, speaking of things that should be done by September, the person I'm knitting these around the block leg warmers for, their birthday is early September. Did I say September or December just then? I think I said September. Anyway, we're talking about September. So their birthday, not that these were going to be a birthday present, but if I can give them to them around their birthday, it just, makes it even nicer. So I mentioned last time I showed these, I'd had to unpick because I'd made a boo-boo. So I'll have to double check those. That's quite a quick pattern to do. The texture is quite easy to get your mind around. And because it's bulky weight yarn and it's only 48 stitches around, it doesn't take too long. So yes, they should be up first too. So in this gorgeous Ray project bag, which was made for me by my friend Mel, who's Dubai Mel, she's made bags for the podcast as well. Inside here, it's quite appropriate these came out next, is another pair of leg warmers that was originally going to be for that recipient. These were the original leg warmers I was going to make them. And as I have shown you in the past, but we haven't seen these for quite a while, I've made quite a lot of progress on this. But towards the beginning, there was a big hole where something, there we go, where I obviously dropped a stitch, or not dropped a stitch, but, dropped a yarn over. And that I can just, could have just woven up, but I think the pattern had been thrown off at the beginning because it's a lace repeat and it's hard to see and I can't remember where it was, but the pattern was off. Oh, there. I don't know how easy that would be to see. And I thought, it's a design feature, and truly the recipient wouldn't care. So it's not like, I'm being lazy and, oh, how could you for a gift? They truly wouldn't care. But that aside, just something about it, I wasn't sure it was the right pattern for them. And again, they would receive them, wear them with gratitude and wouldn't be a problem. However, I put them aside, never went back to them, and then when I saw that pattern around the block leg warmers and then was so kindly given. Okay, the memory card filled up, so I have no idea how much of what I just said was recorded. The short version is, these are getting ripped out. Nothing wrong with the pattern, just not needed at this time, and I'm going to keep the yarn for something else. Inside my black chicken bag this project I definitely want to work on, and it's just, again, one of those things that got put aside. And then, why do I have 2 needles in here? Weird. Okay. Maybe I needed to use these needles for something else, and I swapped to the bamboo. This is my Grotine shawl. That is designed by Caroline Dick, C. Dick Designs. And actually, in a weird synchronicity, I chose this bag just because it worked well and I like chickens and it suited the thing. But Caroline on Instagram uses the rooster emoji. Oh, there we go, I can do that. The rooster emoji is instead of like a heart, so lol. Yeah, that's, you kind of have to know what she's doing on Instagram. Trust me, it makes sense, and it was all by chance. So this pattern, so beautiful. I definitely want to get back to this. I really think I must have, because I'm pretty sure I started these on the bamboo, then got some Chow Goose, which is my favorite brand. I just really like how smooth and the sharp, the angle of the tips. And then I must have wanted this for a different pattern, couldn't tell you which one, so put it back on this. Anyway, we think that's what's happened. It is in linen stitch, which looks really beautiful in variegated yarn, and I love how it's working up in this. There are sections where it's all one colour, sections up here as it gets wider where there's 2 colours together, then as it gets wider again it changes. Loving it. So definitely want to finish that. This is the yarn, and it's Blue Moon Fibre Arts yarn in the henpecked. So again, that's another reason I chose that bag. That's right, you see it's all coming together. Henpecked colourway, and it's beautiful. The Grotine knit along has long finished, and I didn't make it, obviously, but I will make it in my own time and have this beautiful shawl. Wonder Woman! So lucky with all these Wonder Woman bags that people give me and make just for me. In here are some beautiful colours. Look, I've got a Needle Cozy too. These are my Kia socks. This is a pattern by Dawn Landix. And it was a free pattern, and it's one she put together or designed as a way of celebrating the diversity in the knitting or crafting community. And you can see the pattern. Oh, I love this colourway. The pattern is such that it gives lots of little equal signs in the knitting. Equal as in, you know, equality and equal humanity, or should be. No, not that the world always recognises equal humanity, but we have it. Knit picks in the, oh, a bit of a tripod issue there. Let's try that again. Knit picks Felici in the Stormy Sky colourway. And I'm pretty sure I only ever bought one skein of that, and I wish I had more because I just love all those shades of grey. And they really subtly transition. And then I've used this red Happy Feet for my contrast. And I've done my Fish Lips Kiss heel, and I also used this wonderful lace weight strengthening yarn that was sent to me by lovely Barbara. And the reason these have stalled, these are on 2mm needles. I usually use a 2.25 for my socks, but I've decided to try a 2 just to try and get a tighter gauge and therefore, you know, make it a bit more hard wearing. And I haven't looked at my notes, but everything will be on my Ravelry notes as to how many stitches I did. I think maybe I didn't increase my stitch count, or I only increased by a little bit, but I need to try these on because A, they're really stiff to work because of the smaller needles, which is fine if the sock fits though. I think when I tried it on before I put it aside, it was just too small. So I think if I wanted the same tightness, I'd have to go up significantly with stitch count. So we'll see. Because it's such a beautiful pattern and I love the colours together. But, you know, I want it to fit because there's no point having it if it's too small. If it's too small, it might fit Sophie, the under 10, my stepdaughter, but you know, I'd really like them. So if they're too tight, then I'm going to have to rip out and start the pattern again at a later stage probably. I don't know that I'd cast it on straight away, just because I'm trying to work through all these other whips. But fingers crossed, you know, they might be tight but then loosen as I'm wearing them, because that'd be cool, because then I can just keep going. But we'll see. More on that when it's tried. Yeah, more Wonder Woman. I'm so spoiled. All these lovely Wonder Woman things that people make for me. Okay, here are some socks. If you watch the podcast, you may recognise these. These are socks I cast on earlier this year, and they were going to be for my birthday. My birthday was in July. These socks were never finished. They were nearly finished. They were so close. And then on the first one, I did the toe decreases, and I think I knit too far before I started the decreases. So instead of just ripping back, I thought, oh, I'll fudge it. So I'll just do, you know, less decreases, or I'll, you know, it didn't work. It didn't fit. It was too tight. Pulled it back. I think I've pulled back the the toes at least 3 or 4 times on one or both of them. So hence, you maybe don't understand my frustration. I've just gone, yeah, whatever. I will do that later. It's a shame, but never mind. So the yarn I'm using is Paintbox Yarns, and it's the Zebra Flare colourway. That's it there. And then I've also got another lovely strengthening spray. Strengthening thread. What's a strengthening spray? Anyway, that again, Barbara gave me more of a cherry colour, and I really like how that worked out, because on the yarn it's, you know, greys with the reds, but then it's more red in your heel because of this extra thread. So essentially I just need to do toes on both of these, and that's quite easy, but I'm annoyed at them, so I haven't. But when they're done, that'll be quite a quick finish, so they will get done, because that's the point of this project. Can you tell I'm still a bit annoyed at them? Never mind. What's in this bag? This is a lovely owl bag, which was part of a Harry Potter set that I was very kindly sent. Ah, these socks. These are another tale of woe. So many tales of woe. Oh, that is such soft yarn. Lovely. This is Skein yarn, which is an Australian dye yarn. She does beautiful colours, and her top drawer sock base, 75/25, is so soft. This is the Poppy colourway, and I finished these socks a while ago, but the foot was too short and I needed to rip out the toe. It looks like I actually got around to maybe I didn't actually finish the second one. No, I think that's what happened. So no, I'm not organised and actually ripped one out. I just stopped knitting on these. Beautiful colourway. There's different tonalities of red. Little ankle socks, just plain stockinette, so soft. But yes, I've got to undo the toe decreases on that one, rip back a bit, redo the toe, make sure those match. So again, it won't take too long, but again, they annoyed me. So many examples. What's in this bag? This is a lovely Alice in Wonderland bag, made for me by, can you guess, Julia. What's in here? Oh, this is embarrassing. This was supposed to be a gift. This is a knitted bow pattern here, and I think all I need to do is cinch that and knit a little bit to go around, and then attach a brooch back to it. This is a gift for Carly Finlay, who is a writer, an Australian writer, and an advocate for those with facial difference, because she has a condition, ichthyosis, and she talks about that in her book Say Hello. And she was at the Perth Writers Festival, and I was going to have this ready to give her as a gift, because she has a fantastic fashion sense and often wears brooches. And I had actually contacted her because I often knit scarves for writers that I meet, but because of her skin condition, she has frequently talked about, and in her book talks about the sensitivity that comes from that condition. like her skin sensitivity. So I, usually like to do it as a surprise, but I contacted her in advance to check if any type of yarn would be okay, and she said a brooch would be better. So it's not finished because I was going to do it the night before, but then I got quite sick that weekend. So while I saw her speak once, I wasn't actually able to see her at her solo session because I didn't go to the festival at all that day, which is a shame. And then, oh, how embarrassing. I haven't finished it yet because I was going to post it to her. She lives in Melbourne on the other side of Australia. Well, I will get on to that because that's what this is all about. Chickens and eggs. And little egg there. This bag is from Bird Leg Bags and was given to YarnderWoman, and I'm now using it for her while she's not able to. Look, there's eggs inside. These, let's just continue that tale of woe, huh? So this beautiful, beautiful, beautiful yarn is by Jinx Yarns. It's in the colourway Spirited Away, which is a Studio Ghibli movie, one of my favourites. And I'm knitting little ankle socks because I already knit a full pair of socks with this colourway when I was in Japan in 2017, and they ended up being too short, but rather than rip the toe out, they fit Sophie, the under 10, so I gave them to her. So I wanted to make myself some little socks. They're Rose City Rollers pattern. So you can see here the top is just rolling rather than there being any ribbing. So you just cast on and they roll down, hence the name Rose City Rollers. I've got some blue strengthening, oh my goodness, what is strengthening spray? Can anyone tell me? Strengthening thread, because there's blue in the yarn, and I thought it'd be really nice to pick up that further with the strengthening thread, which I think looks great. However, so I divided my skein into two, so that's my second one, I haven't started yet. I've run out and I wasn't anywhere near the end. Well, nearish the end, but nowhere near enough. And I didn't have a yarn that was a close enough colour, and I didn't want to just do something random, so they've been waiting. I have thought, since then I've now got some beautiful yarn from Mythica Fibre, who's Aya in Yokohama in Japan, and I had knit her a little sample piece for her Colour Phoenix Rising, and she kindly sent me the whole 400 gram skein and said just knit her the sample and I could keep the rest. It's not a vibrant orange like this, but it is orangey, so I think I might get that out later, and that might be the answer to this problem, because then I can finish this foot and cast on the second one and just have a different shade of orangey at the end, because I think that would be best, rather than just having, I don't have any plain brown, because brown would also match. So yes, I think that might be the answer, which is good, because then I have another little pair of socks. And now that it's, sort of getting cooler and coming into spring, it'd be good to have some ankle socks to wear. Inside this cute bag is my Keorangi cowl. Oh, and there's my row counter. I wondered where that went. There we go. This is another pattern by lovely Frenchie of Aroha Knits, and it's a cowl, but you start knitting it flat and then you join in the round, and I'm up to that point. I'm using this Hazel Knits yarn, which is divine. It's superwash wool, cashmere and silk. That was given it to me by lovely Becky of the Wrapped in Wool podcast. The reason I stopped is, from here when you join in the round, you go into a pattern, and I think I got stuck as to whether I'm knitting it, holding it together that way or that way. I wasn't sure which was the right side. So I'm sure now that I've, left it a while and I can review the pattern and have a look, I'm sure it will become very apparent. But that's why it got put to the side and then, covered by other whips. This is one of my Make 9 projects. A few other things I've shown you are as well. So that was at the beginning of the year. I chose 9 patterns I wanted to knit by the end of 2019. I'll have to do a little count and see. It's definitely not many. I haven't cast some of them on even, but that's okay. Doesn't matter. It's just a target, isn't it? But yeah, this is beautiful yarn. So soft. Gorgeous colours. I'm looking forward to the cowl because it's nice to have something that just stays on your neck. And more on that later in my Give Me a Crown bag. Nina is over in New South Wales, the other side of Australia. Lovely cherries. And the cherries I chose for this project because it's angel face turban, and it's quite a sort of retro rockabilly pattern, which goes nicely. This is blowing out. Oh, there we go. There's the matching colours. Not matching, actual colours, as opposed to when the light blows out. So this is beautiful, and I think similarly with that cowl I just showed you, I'm up to knitting in the round, and there was nothing that was stopping me with that. I think when I was last knitting on it, I just didn't have the needles handy because I've only got the straights here. It says 5. I don't know if these are Japanese needles, so I'm not sure what size that translates to. I don't think it's 5mm. Anyway, this is some beautiful Madeleine Tosh singles again. The same base as the black Victorian Gothic one I was showing you earlier. This is the tart colourway. And again, that's one I've had in my stash for quite some time. So this is like a turban type hat. It's a beautiful pattern. I love all this ruching in the middle that's done with picking up stitches. That's the reverse side there. So again, there's nothing, wrong with this pattern. Oh, there's a little corgi I got from Gabby of Once Upon a Corgi podcast and Etsy shop. Actually, I'm not sure if she's on Etsy. It's her yarn label, Upon a Corgi, but Once Upon a Corgi, sorry. Anyway, Google that. Look her up on Instagram if you're keen. So yeah, I think that's just ready to go in the round. Though, as I look in there, I have got some double point needles, 3.5mm. There we go. Which I assume I was going to be using. So I think maybe it was probably just before bed, and I thought, I'll do that tomorrow, and then never did. But again, it would be lovely to have it done. I think it'll be a really beautiful pattern and something lovely to wear, especially now that I've got my shaved head. I've had short hair for years, but with the shaved head, it'll be nice to have a turban, which will be quite nice for the cooler mornings. All right, a couple more things and then we're done. Another beautiful bird leg bag. Oh, and inside, there's another bag. This was also made for me, but it doesn't have a tag. But it was made just for me, so it wasn't one from a shop anyway. But it's beautiful with sort of old style kanji Japanese writing on it. And I was using that bag for some yarn. But this project is going to be frogged, it definitely is. This was a My Mama vertebrae cardigan. It's in a sport weight yarn by Jinx. The colourway was Oran. And the reason it's going to be frogged, it's such a shame, I have done the body and I decided to make it cropped. This was years ago. So it's a cropped length, you can see there. But the way the pattern is done with the raglan decreases, it's meant to be quite a floppy, loose-fitting cardigan. So it's got quite big armholes and really quite relaxed fit on the shoulder. So I tried it on, and I'll try it on again and see how I feel about it now. But when I tried it on at that time, the loose fit at the top didn't suit the cropped length. So they just weren't working together. So it's such a shame because all this needs is sleeves. Oh my goodness, I've done a sleeve. Ha! Wow, it's been a while. Okay, all it needs is a second sleeve. So that must be it. I've knit a sleeve, and I don't think I did any decreases. I just knit it to the width of the raglan. So you can see that's quite wide. I mean, well, that's a subjective term, but it's quite wide in comparison to the length of the cardigan. See, that's the length there. Okay, so I will definitely try this on and see what I think about it now. But based on the reason I know I put it away the first time, it's going to be frogged. But you never know. I might decide I don't mind it. I could have a near finished cardigan. And if not, I'll just have some yarn wound up. It's the final whip down. Do-do-do-do. Do-do-do-do-do. Anyway, sorry. This final project that I have to show you. It's my final whip. Well, technically I do have a little crocheted granny square somewhere, but I think I've stored it with the crochet hook with the yarn, so it's somewhere in my stash. But so that's on my list of whips as well, but I don't have it with me here. So if and when I finish that, I'll show you then. But this is the oh my goodness me, final one. This is a knitted dress that I started for the Yarnder team. This is the Amagansett dress, which was a pattern on Ravelry. I can't remember who it was by. It was a paid pattern. And there weren't many projects on Ravelry that had been done. And I got, as you can see, I've done, it's knit from the bottom up. And this is the front panel. I used to just do a front and a back panel. And I followed through all the instructions, and then I got to this part. The colours are washing out. That's quite a vivid purple, red and black. And the patterns, I wasn't sure if there was an error, if I'd misunderstood, and I contacted the designer and I never heard back, and that's, that happens, that's fair enough. But hence I put it aside because I wasn't sure where I was going with it, and that was years ago. And it's just sat there because I haven't been too keen to get back to it. So now I was thinking maybe I could make it into a skirt instead of a dress, because it's bottom up, so it's sort of the skirt part. But recently the other team said she didn't think she was that keen for a knitted skirt or dress. So it's worked out well that, that I haven't continued it. So I'm not sure what I'll do, if I'll knit a second piece and maybe give it to my niece. I think, it might be too big for her because she's only 11 still. So I may just rip it out and be done with it. This yarn it's a Knit Picks one, Shine I think it is, yeah, Shine worsted. And it's in this cute bag that, I think this is one of the first project bags I ever got. Is it Mad Bird Designs? Is that who it is? I don't know if there's a tag. But it came with a pattern holder as well. The yarn is quite, you can see that it's not dirt, that's from the yarn, especially the black. The bits come off it quite a bit. Oh, inside, from Moseley Park, who is an Australian knitting supplier, is one of the Ann Budd Knits gauge rulers. So you can see, you hold up, you put this as a clear ruler, you take it out of the packet first, and hold it up against your knitting, and you just line up the knit stitches to get your gauge. And so Moseley Park sent me that a couple of years ago to review, and I very much suggest that it's a good investment for everyone. So it's the Ann Budd Knits ruler. So yeah, I think this is going to be an easy to sort out. Isn't that just so cute? Sorry. Look at them, so cute. Yeah, I think this is an easy to resolve whip. I'm just going to pull it out, and I think, yeah, I have cut the yarn as I've gone along, but that's all right. I'll still just wind it up and have smaller balls, and I can use that for something else. Worsted it might be. It's quite an easy care yarn, this one. I think it's got acrylic in it as well as wool. Anyway, the tag's gone. It's gone forever. It's in there somewhere. So I could even use that for some charity knits, like a scarf, and then it wouldn't matter if there are smaller pieces. I can just join them all up and go from there. So all the whips all over the table. I think as I went along, I definitely just, had a few that I wanted to make priorities. I'll knit as many as I can. The whip along, the sort of premise is you commit to 50% of your whips. But, I'll knit as many as I can. Pulling out the yarn and frogging some of them is definitely going to, make that easier to finalise them. And I'd like to get the needles cleared by the end of the year. That doesn't mean I'm not going to cast on anything else new. Definitely not. I think my resolve may not last that long. But right now I'm very enthused and excited about finishing these off and clearing the needles and just having them done, because I didn't realise I had so many. Because once they've been hibernating for a while, I actually marked them as hibernating on my Ravelry page, so I don't see them when I go to Ravelry. I don't see all the hibernating ones at the top, so they just add up, and that's wasteful and silly, and that's no judgment to anyone with other WIPs. You do you with your knitting. I'm talking about me, how I feel about me. I feel that if I've started these projects, I should either frog them or finish them. So I'm looking forward to giving you an update in the next episode on how I go. Thank you very, very much for being here. I hope you're having a lovely day. I'll see you next time. Until then, happy crafting. Bye bye.